Hello there and welcome to this video. I am going to be recording these before the fact because currently there's the internet here is pretty patchy, so I'm not able to stream anything, and so I'll just be doing these videos for the time being. And if I manage to find a spot that has good internet, then I'll be back in there doing these live. Okay, so I want to show a few things today. I want to show an update to the software, and I also want to run through a couple of pairs. So if we start with the updates to the software, it's pretty cool. What I have wanted to do for a long time is I've wanted to be able to show areas of supply and demand that have been consumed. And so you can see that we have these little X's now. And so this X here shows us roughly where an area of supply is, and this has no longer been this is no longer valid because it has been taken out by this leg higher here, so this is gone. And we have the same here, this one's been taken out, and this one has by this one down here. So we have something valid up here and something valid down there. And this is pretty cool because if you go to the daily chart, and if we have a look at the configuration and we change, okay, we have 0, 1, 2, so we're looking at the current plus 1, the current plus 2. Again, I apologize for any background noise. I'm sitting at a cafe, and so there's quite a lot of stuff going on. But so you can see here that on this daily chart that we have a weekly area that has been consumed. And if we zoom out a little bit more, we can probably see the higher time frame levels. No, I have to go back a little bit. So no, you can't see, but you can see areas that have been consumed despite the time frame that you're on. So this is pretty similar to where these supply and demand areas are going to be drawn, but it's just going to show you the same colored X just to kind of denote where that area has been taken out. So you can see that here we have a weekly area of demand that has been consumed by something up here. So you can see that, this one has been taken out by this one here. So we have child, this is another child, the parent is up here. And so ideally you'd want to target the parent for the short here. And yeah, this one here took this one out. Yeah, so just a really nice way to view these areas. And then of course you see this. You can see, okay, this area of demand has been taken out. This is both weekly and daily. What do you do? Well, then you have to backtrack. Well, what area did that? Well, you can see here that we have this high, and we have price that moved lower below this low here. So if we turn on these trend lines, show supply and demand levels, we'll set this to true now, and you can see that we have this daily level that did it, which is super. So up here, ideally there's an area that we could consider to sell here. That's pretty cool new feature. I really like it, and I've been using it a lot, and I think it's just smashing. Okay, so that's that, and I've also made a small modification to the trend lines because I felt that these trend lines were getting, actually let me turn those back on again, things were getting a little bit cluttered, and it was nice to be able to differentiate between trend lines and supply and demand levels. So I'll just enable this once again, like that. Then you can see that we have these levels here, but you need to, we want to be able to draw trend lines. So I've added this new feature here, where we have enable manual trendline management, which is the one that enables the indicator to grab them and manage the trend lines that you draw on there manually. And then we have enable automatic trendline management, and this is the automatic drawing of these trend lines, which I have switched off. And then we have enable trendline extension. This is of course just the ray. So if we have a trend line from this high to this high, if this is set to false, then the trend line will stop at the second, in this case, peak. If it is set to true, then it'll just extend it into the future. And then we have trend line width, which is the same, just the thickness of the value. We'll set this to 1. And then we have trend line style. And when trend line is when trend line width is set to 1, then this one can be used. If it's set to a value greater than 1, then only the solid one can be used. But if it's set to 1, then you can set them to dash dot, for example, and we'll just enable that. And so now we can take a trend line. We can go from the high there to the high here, and you can go like this. And so now, excuse me. So now it's just drawing these trend lines as in a slightly different way so that you can differentiate between them. So now we have this downward sloping trend line. You can see it's not an area of supply and demand because it looks different, which I think is really useful. And now also you can draw horizontal levels, and the software is now managing those as well. So we can take the horizontal drawing tool. Normally we take the trend line, which is like the diagonal line on the, I'll just show that quickly. So this is the normal trend line tool that I just used, but now we can use a horizontal trend line, which is this one here. Just going to move my chart back so we get. Okay. So now we can take the horizontal trend line and you can go like this. You can draw that, and then it'll grab it and it'll do the same thing. So now you can manage those as well. So we can set this to, for example, let's say we want dash dot dot. You can set it like that, and the indicator will change those accordingly. So now the diagonal and the horizontal trend line drawing tools is working really, really well. And I really like these because these enable us to spot super important areas like this one here. This is a really nice area. You can see that we had this area of demand, which is located to the left. And historically we have a test price accumulated on the area, and we'll move it there. So you want to have the horizontal trend line there, and price accumulated and then pop through it. So we want to sell the test of this area, which is responsible for breaking this trend line, and likely some demand over to the left here, which we can't see currently. So this is just a really cool new feature, and I use this all the time, and I have it on my charts all the time. I normally have these, you might remember these, but I always have these as magenta levels on my charts. So this is just a way to incorporate that into the functionality of the software. And so that's pretty cool. Yes, so we have those, and just back to the supply and demand consumption indicator here. The reason this is really good is that, I mean, you can see that, I mean, there are no areas of demand to buy at here. You can see they've all been taken out, and so you don't want to buy anything here. There's nothing to buy here. If you want to buy, you're going to have to go lower down and look for the next lines. And if we zoom in just a little bit, you can see that the next area that we want to buy is down here. So we have the monthly area here, we have the weekly here, and within this weekly area here, we're probably going to have some kind of a daily or 4-hour nested area that we could buy at. So it's just a really cool way to keep yourself out of trouble. So if you're only seeing X's like this and there's nowhere to buy, then don't buy. Just simply sit on your hands and just look lower, because you can see that we have, I mean, there's nothing here. So when price is here, I mean, you just have to be very careful. So once price has already moved down here and taken these out, then there's simply nothing to buy. So you just want to be a little bit careful, and I think it's a really cool visual indication of what's going on. And if we go to, for example, the 4-hour chart, you can see here on the 4-hour chart that we have, so this area down here is a weekly area of demand. It's a daily and a 4-hour, and they're all nested. And so you ask yourself, well, what area of supply took this out? And this is pretty important because we moved above this one here, and the area that did it is something up here. You can see there's a weekly and the daily and the 4-hour, and so you could target a nice fresh area up here to test that. And you can see that price has been back. It's been back, I mean, all the way up to here. You can see how price kind of came down, and we have all these wicks to the upside. Okay, back again, just let that super noisy scooter move past. By the way, if you're into scooters, then come to Asia. There are absolutely thousands of them everywhere. Right, so you see how we had these nice full-bodied candles that moved all the way down, and when price started to come down here, it started to wick, kind of poke higher, and this is consuming the liquidity we have up here for sale. And so this kind of shows you where you should be a little bit careful. So, I mean, you could sell here. This is a pretty nice push, but price has already really fed into the area here. And so you just want to be a little bit careful. So ideally you want to look a little bit higher. Excuse me. I mean, somewhere up here is probably the better bet for selling. Somewhere that lines up with this nice daily trend line here. So if we can have something that kind of tests here, when we have a trend line break, a horizontal trend line break, we have some tests. Price did not manage to move below this level for a while. and price finally managed to just here. And so this is the cheapest price that you want to, which you want to sell the euro and New Zealand dollar. So anyway, just a couple new features on the indicator. I hope you enjoy them. If you find any bugs, send them in and I'll get those fixed as soon as I can. Okay, let's have a quick look at some pairs. Okay, so we have the Australian dollar, American dollar. If we go on the monthly chart and have a look, you can see that we are sitting between a couple of areas. We have this still untested weekly area of supply at the top here. We have this weekly area that's been tested once, twice, and now we're getting close to these highs here. So we're kind of bouncing between these two levels, and we've had a couple areas that have been qualified on the way up. We go to the weekly and have a quick look. You can see that we have some pretty interesting areas just here. You can see that we have price left very quickly here. As you saw earlier on, we took a short up here, and I'll look at that in just a second and why we sold there. You can see that price has really fed pretty nicely into this area of supply just here, and you can see that price has been back an awful lot to this level. So ideally, you don't want to be selling the Australian dollar, American dollar for a price any cheaper than the 77, 70-ish area, and this is where I have an order to sell on my private account here. What else do we have? Well, we have some areas on the way up. You can see that price reacted on this weekly demand. We moved above this high here, which qualified something down in here. We had a small continuation pattern here, and then we had a really strong push away just up there. So if we remove that daily level just there and we draw in this one here, you can see that we have, remove this one as well. You can see that we have this weekly area just here, and this is a really nice clear one. You can see how price went up, accumulated, and then popped up really aggressively and really stabbed deeply into this area of supply. So if we go to the daily chart and have a closer look, you can see what's going on. You can see we have this in this weekly area here. You could see if we go back to the weekly that price had been back to this level, looking at the low here, all the way back here. So we go to the daily chart and have a closer look. You can see this brings us back pretty close to the lows here, which is pretty far into this. What do you want to do about that? Well, this would be a more conservative approach, but we do have a pretty interesting area up here. Let me delete these. Oh, that's an order there. So we have, the highs here. You see how we had like pretty good push up, tried to close, nothing, and price poked through, and this one closed. So this is telling us that we have a pretty price sensitive area around here. This is at the 76-ish 100 area. So if price comes to around this area, I think we're probably going to see a bunch of people trying to buy. And so if you want to have a quick look at where it would be interesting, we could for a moment consider this level here, the 75.96. Alternatively, you could go move this a little, come on, move it down here to where that bar is, the body of the candle, which also looks pretty interesting. This is the 75.83 area, and you can see when this candle poked up, you can see that it went down to the 75.78 area. So if we go to the 4-hour chart and have a look, you can see what that is. Yeah, that looks like a pretty interesting area. You can see like a lot of trading going on in here, but due to the fact that we had such an interest in buying this down at this level here, I think we'll probably get some kind of reaction there. Again, we don't want to pay a price any more expensive than the 75.78. Yeah, but for the time being, if we go back to the longer term, you can see that we are consolidating. We don't really have anything to put a trend line on. We still have, the valid trend line is this high, yeah, to this, kind of like that, which is broken. We still don't have any higher lows or any lower highs. So that's what we have to go with the timing. So we have a bearish consolidation on the monthly, and on the weekly, you can see that we have a trend line break there as well, where we have from this high to this low. It's a pretty nice one, pretty clear swings, like a high, a low, high, and a low. so that qualifies this area down here. Then we had on the daily chart, let me adjust this so it sits a bit clearer. We have that. On the daily chart we have this trend line break, a daily trend line break at supply. So low, a high, low, and price moved up to a higher high. So you could actually do this, or you could do a more aggressive one like that, like so. That's also fine because we have these nice clear swings, low, high, low, high. That's fine as well. And price has already moved through this, and you can see that when price left, we had a really strong push. Let's use the same trend line all the way up to this level here. So for this, you don't want to be selling for a price any cheaper than the 77.44-ish area. And due to the fact that price has been back to this level twice, I'm going to opt for a better price at which to sell, which is the highs of this push high here. But I'm not sure if price will get there because we had a super strong move away. But due to the strength that we've seen in the Australian dollar, I think that's the better approach for me. If we have a quick look into this little price structure here, we can see that we have price rallied, accumulated, then dropped off. We tested, and then we moved lower. So we do have a micro area here, just up here like so, which is also a pretty decent area. As a matter of fact, we can remove that one. So we do have something like that. So that's a pretty good area. That's at the 7,800 area. As a matter of fact, I'm going to adjust my entry and try and sell it just now. I'm just going to log on to the other trading account. 1 second, please. Okay, I'm back. You can see actually on our account we have an entry at the very high here. So what we could say is, okay, we want to go for the more conservative entry, which is at the top there. And due to the fact it's the big figure, price will likely gravitate at least to the highs here. So I'm just going to be conservative, and I'm going to push it up like that. I shan't fiddle with the position size. We just have a lot of protection for our stop. I like that. That's pretty cool, pretty nice area there. And if we just have a look at the stop, what we have for protection there. So we have, okay, cool. So we're putting the stop above these highs here. And when we do that, we see this nice little bit here. It's going to mark that one off like that. So it's another daily level up there we could have a look at. If this one doesn't hold or we don't get much of a reaction, we could certainly have another sell up there. And price has been back almost once. So this is a very good shorting opportunity at the top there. All right. Cool. So that's what we have on the Aussie US dollar. If we again notice these really cool consume supply and demand icons, how we have for example, we have this area here which has been taken out. What area did it? Well, this one down here still untested. So we have, this isn't important enough, but you can see that price has managed to move off that. And if we just enable these trend lines, the supply and demand levels quick, and we can have a look. Yes, we're testing, we're sitting on the weekly level now. We've had a test, one test, second test. Price is looking to maybe retrace a little bit. We go to the weekly and have a look on there. You can see there it is. But you see we have this really big wick. And so there's a lot of an uncertainty about what's going on in here on the weekly. So we're forced to go on the smaller time frames to find some clarity. And you can see pretty, again, as we just looked at, and price went all the way up to here. So you don't want to be touching it selling it for a price any cheaper than there. All right. Okay, so I just really like these new icons here. I think they're super handy. All right, enough about that. If we go to the dollar CAD, if we have a quick look, it's going to enable this template. Whoa, and removes. Actually, I can just change time frames once, and they should disappear. Excellent. So we can have a look there on the monthly. See, we have this still holding, and then we got a reaction here. Super. And then price is kind of testing between that one and this one here. We look at some trend lines to see what's cooking. You can see that we have, well, we don't really have any super clear things going. We have, suppose we have a low. This is kind of, I suppose you could consider this a trend line because it is clearish, but I don't like when they're that steep. I don't like to draw them that steep. I like to see super clear swings. And I suppose this is a clear swing. We have a high, low, high, low. So that's about as clear as it gets on this time frame. Let me enable these trend lines. Alright, so we have that, and you go to the weekly chart and have a look. So you see how it kind of like gets a bit ugly. We'll go like this. Put it like that. Okie dokie, so we have that. And then you asked what area broke this trend line. We have something, I mean, the point of origin for the move is up here, and you can see how price left. Price went up to this level, so this is the high. It's like a pretty major high there, so we'll have a look on a small time frame in a second, but there we have a micro supply at the top there. Price left, we have a lot of kind of moving accumulation here, moving lower. Price broke through the trend line, and we've tested something up in here, just here. We tested it to the pip, and so we don't want to fiddle too much with that. You can see a price has really moved off it pretty far. So if we look at a trend line with this, it's not super clear, but you could do, I mean, we have, yeah, we're going to have a downward sloping trend line here. I'm going to remove this so it's not so cluttered. We're going to have a downward sloping. Is this one? This one looks a little bit higher. So we have the high here of 35,983, 33, sorry, 35. Yeah, okay, so this one is higher than that, and so we can't do one there. Yeah, it's a bit of a tough one to draw a trend line here, but if we have to do something, I think we'd probably do something like from this low to this low here. It's been respected quite a lot. You see prices bounced off it quite nicely. Now we've moved through it, and the area to cause the break of this trend line is this one here. We'll just draw that one in and go to the daily and have a closer look. Okay, so we had this little area of demand. It moved above this high. So this one here has been taken out by this one here. So we're going to move this one up here, high. We have a pretty big wick there, so we'll just draw it like that. Price has almost been back up there, so 130,400 area. And price has just moved off it and hasn't looked back. So if we look down here, you can see that we've had a lot of these areas that have been taken out. And so price has come back as low as here historically, so we don't want to be buying for anything cheaper. Sorry, we don't want to be paying anything more than 126.56 for this. And that brings us pretty close to this accumulation down here. So if we zoom in and have a look, you can see it looks pretty interesting. Just want to have a quick look on the bigger time frame to see where we are. Okay, we're down here. Nice, that's fine. Have a quick look once more. You can see that this is the one we're talking about. We're just going to zoom in quickly and zoom out. So we're right there, and you can see here we have the green candle. Accumulation, yes, has avoided this one in the range of the previous. Yes, 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 no. So this area is from here to there. So we have a fresh area of demand down there at the 12600 area. It's going to zoom out. So it looks like that. That's pretty nice, pretty fresh and tested. We have 133 pips. So we certainly could have a shot at buying that. Also, price really has to travel quite far down to get there for us, which I like. So I'm going to put an order in there. That's a pretty small position. Let's see if my configurations right. Okay, we're 1/4%. We'll put on 1% like we like to do. Okay, so we're a little bit better off there. As a matter of fact, I am going to, because it's such a wide area there, you can see how it's, where is it? There it is. See how these candles went up like that. I'm going to go for this. Just take the high there. You can put on a bigger position. We're going to get closer to the root of the move. You can see also once price gets down to here, it would have returned to parity, which is nice. So currently price is out of balance. We're at disparity, and this will rebalance things. So I think that's a super one there. Well, mum's not giving baby enough attention or food, one or the other. Okay, so we're at 11 micro lots. We are buying at 125.66, 25.66, and the stop is at 124.60, 124.60, and the target we'll have a look at just a second. Buying. Okay, we're also trading in line with this, with the swaps, which I like to do normally, generally. We go down. Let's have a look. What are we at? We're at 116, 140. So we go to 230-ish for the time being. And then we can adjust once price gets down, and then we can figure out what we want to do there. Cool. Okay, I'm going to have a quick look at another pair, the Euro and Kiwi. If we start on the higher time frame, it's going to clear all this off, just to mix this up a bit. You can see that price is getting pretty close to this area down here, which is really interesting. If we zoom out and see where we are, you can see price has not been back here since we're at an all-time low. I'm just going to draw on the area there, so from here to there, like so. Tested it. Good. What do we have on the upside there? Well, we have this really nice one here, like that. And currently we have a downward sloping trend line that looks like, go from this high to there, like that. And you can see how it didn't change it to a dot/dot line. Well, that's because the thickness of this line has to be set to 1, like so. Now it should change. There we are. Now we got it. That's what we have. So we are in a very strong downtrend on the Euro Kiwi. So we go to the weekly and see if that's the case there as well. Let's change these all nicely. And there. All right. Cool. Okay. So down here, within that trend, so within that demand, that monthly demand, we have weekly demand. You can see we have from here, we'll take from the low to that little low there, the candle that left. So that looks pretty awesome, I think, like a pretty nice shot. Honestly, that's like an incredible move there. I mean, that was, what an amazing move. Let's go from that. What is that? Yeah, almost 4,000 pips. That's amazing. So price is testing the edge. And just note, just for a second, how accurate these levels are. So you could trade the edge of these monthly and weekly levels with, like, I don't know, 50, 100 pit stop. I mean, look at this. Look how they react. I mean, that is a huge move. Look at that. It's just like, it's magical. And it went up almost, 500 pips. That's absolutely staggering. Now we're at the second time back, so it probably won't hold. What else do we see here? Well, you can see that we're sitting. We can actually draw our horizontal trend line, which we're going to do. And here we have the same thing unfolding that we've seen in the past. You can see here we have an orange X. So we have weekly demand has been consumed by something opposing. So we have something up here. So if we go to the daily chart and have a closer look, see this one's gone. And it's already moved. So we have this one here. It's the one that did it. Price came back to it pretty much, and we really moved deeply into it. We had a pretty decent rejection. Now price might move back into here and then move through this, excuse me, up to this higher pattern here. So this is pretty interesting up here. It's a little bit traded there. You can see how the wicks have been back there a lot, but we do have I mean, longer term, if we want to look at this trend line, if price manages to move back up to this here, and we have this like that up at the top there, so that's at the 15600 area. I think eventually price will probably wriggle back up here, and it might even line up nicely with pretty close to this trend line. And if we can take our trend line, horizontal trend line drawing tool, and you can see how we had like a kind of resistance, it popped through, support, and then price finally cut through it, and then price came back to the area. This is the 155.35 area. If you move it up a little bit higher, you can actually see that we have this little, when just up here, like that. So we have something there. This is at the 15600 area. And again, isn't it almost magical how the vast majority of these big areas are big figures, round numbers. I think it's pretty astonishing. Okay, so we have that area up there, so we could actually get in there for, let me remove, come on, remove that one. So we get in there for, yeah, I mean 100 pips. That's not a bad one there, and that might line up pretty nicely there. We have this up here, which is pretty traded, but I think for the time being, I mean, you could certainly take shorts there, but you could wait for price to get down here and try and buy something down in there. We're just going to have a quick look in there. We'll go to the 4-hour chart, have a closer gander. Okay, so we have, okay, as I'm browsing back, it's downloading price. Okay, that's a pretty cool there. You can see how price kind of went up. So like resistance becomes support. I mean, that's almost to the pip as well. If you go to the lows, the bodies. Was that the wrong thing there? You can see it went, yeah, it was incredible how it came back there. And you can see down here, this is where we have kind of the thicket of it. So you could mark that off there, and you can see how we have a lot of trading in and around here. We have the parent, we have a child. I think we could safely go for like a longer term trade, kind of get in somewhere around there. The stop going below here, maybe something like that. Maybe something like that. Yes, that looks pretty interesting. Let me zoom out so we can have a quick look. You can see we have a super nice entry level. As a matter of fact, the indicator would have drawn the line right there. I'll just turn on the levels for us. We want to draw those. At the indicator, would have drawn a level pretty close to there, I think. Hey, you can see it right there. Right there. It's incredible. So there's a level that are drawn, which is a few pips above that one, which is a 14022 area. That might be quite interesting there. Yes, well, I think I'll kind of close it down for now. Again, I apologize for all the noise. There's an awful lot going on here, and this is the best place where they have internet. But unfortunately, they don't open until 7 in the morning, local time, and to be in the room there, it'll be really early for me. So, and the internet simply isn't stable enough where we are at the moment. So, anyway, I'll leave it at that. If you have any questions, please send them in, and I hope you are all exceedingly well. Thanks for watching.